Now, you might get a notification to say you need to accept that it's recording to continue. Right, so what we're talking about is resilience, and it takes many forms. What I like to think about it as a fir tree that sort of gets a build-up of snow, and then its branches sort of drop and the snow slides off. It's a build-up, but it's not one that's materially impacting the tree in a way that sometimes a very heavy snowfall on branches of trees, which are a little bit more rigid, will tend to break them. So it's not being stoic. It's just being reasonably accepting of what's happening and focusing on the things that you can control yourself. In business, it's starting to be evident that there are a number of dimensions of resilience that you really need to maintain. One is most obvious, and that is the financial resilience, keeping revenues up, maintaining cash flow, and ensuring that you're protected against sort of changes in markets. The financial one's been top of mind, but there are many others that have certainly come to light more recently as well. One of those is operational and being able to flex your production. A lot of organisations have gone to much shorter and more local supply chains, having found that the just-in-time from overseas is only an option when everything flows just in time, which it hasn't been. Technological is really what we're focusing a lot on today, and that's everything from having the infrastructure that you need, using the technology to reach the right people and maintain your back office operations. And it's also protecting yourself from cyber threats, which will be, increasing and certainly can devastate a business. The other three are more certainly around cultural aspects of the organisation, having good focus on building a strong and positive culture for the organisation that will attract not only great people to work for you, but also that the employee value proposition really informs your customer value proposition as well. So great staff who are really happy in doing what they like doing, that will flow through to your customers too. Reputational resilience has become very evident in a number of large enterprises in the news over the last few years for the wrong reasons. That can have a massive impact on a market capitalisation and on willingness of people to work with or for the business. And then the business model resilience, which is, I guess, best exemplified in those retailers who also have an e-commerce presence and being able to sometimes switch from one to another or have them running in parallel. So it's just a matter of understanding what your customers want and what you can do to meet that need and meet them where they are. So today is the first of our business continuity workshops, and it's the technological side that we're looking at. We'll also in other workshops go into more depth on your business strategy and your customer engagement and focus on how to structure your business so that you have a market salary in there for you as the owner or founder, and also how to build your management capability so that you can be an employer of choice, because we will be looking at a skills shortage for the forthcoming few years. And you want to be the one who has the skills that you need to grow your business. And this is something which I think everybody's very focused on. It's been forced upon a lot of businesses, and that's how we're living now, and it's probably not a bad thing. So I'm now going to pass over to Antonella, and she will take the next few sort of phases through, and we will make sure that we do cover off some of the topics that you've raised as being sort of important in your business right at the moment.
Thanks, Sarah. So yeah, just going around the screen, if you like, and listening to what everyone's saying. And I think the common thing is, I mean, we know the statistics, let's say, around digital, we know the importance of it. But what I found quite fascinating is that they're reporting something like, you know, people are spending nearly 40 hours a week online. So that definitely confirms that, you know, to list your business and your location and be found, well, that's where people are going to be looking, you know, for learning, for entertainment, for visual, for credibility, just to find out about, you know, what's around them, even when they are traveling, when we don't have the restrictions. So it definitely means that that's a space that we need to talk about, and we need to really entertain that kind of area of our business. And it is new. And it is ever changing. You know, Wendy was saying that things are changing, and, you know, she doesn't have time. So her thought process is spot on with thinking about engaging someone who will dedicate to digital marketing, because it is an area that can be quite overwhelming and very, very new for some people. So it depends. Each business and every person will decide to play in that space in a different way, whether you engage someone else to do all of it or some of it, or the bits that you don't like, you know, if you don't, you know, like much the social aspect, or, you know, you don't really see yourself as diving into the technical, so that you can be doing what you need to be doing with your business and your services. The big thing is that people are becoming more and more comfortable. So, you know, the percentage is 40% of consumers worldwide are saying that they are more comfortable with digital. And I think it's just a case of, well, we've been forced to, whether you like it or not, that is what you have to do. You know, everyone's QR coding and using their phones a lot more than even for that aspect. And of course, that goes into e-commerce having changed the way we buy goods and services, that there's been a natural increase. You know, Australia Post is inundated with deliveries and what have you. So it's changed lots of businesses and in many, many ways. And the push has been all, you know, coming from the whole digital, the idea of digital and the functionality of it. You might
want to turn off your video.
The great thing is that, okay, I'm lagging. All right. Let me just get, I don't know why my connectivity was so great this morning.
Yeah.
Now, is that making any difference? Yeah, okay. It's like wearing a mask, isn't it? When you go, when there's no video, you can't see me moving my face. So the thing is with digital, it's the strategy. Now the strategies, it's a very important aspect, because you need to understand what is it that you're providing, what service are you providing, where is your audience, who's interested in what you're doing. So it's a real critical area to set up and know that, you know, you need to focus on what you want to achieve. And it's a long-term plan as well, which can repeat itself. You can't know, is it bad connectivity? Sarah, can you hear me?
It's dropping in and out, actually. You were lagging and now you're dropping in and out.
Okay, bear with me just a second.
Yeah. But it is really, you know, it's really important getting back to that that point that Antonella made, which is you've got to know who your customer is, and know what what it is that they want to hear from you. So in this morning's session, for example, we were looking at each business's website, and each was sort of considering their own and thinking, well, what does that look like from a customer point of view? If someone's coming on the customer journey to find you, Wendy, for example, what do they see when they go on to Google and see, what's there with your business? Is it complete with, with opening hours and a picture that you've put there? Or is it, for example, well, I don't think it will be the picture of a garage and a van, but, if you have a business and you haven't gone into your Google business page and updated the photos and the details yourself, then that might be a barrier to people actually finding you, or if they find you, thinking that you're even open. Sometimes businesses have, sometimes those Google things can be wrong, and they'll have the wrong spot on the map, or it'll have someone else's business details on there. So this is something that you can do, right at the beginning, and make sure that the first experience of for a potential customer is congruent with everything that you want them to experience from an engagement with you. How's it going, Ant?
Yeah, I've just switched off. I'm not sharing my screen. I'll just talk and see if we, just put your hand up or wave to me or something if I'm not clear. So yeah, what Sarah was saying, it's funny, we take it for granted and we think, okay, well, we've set and forget, we've put our group Google profile on, but it is important to just keep checking, especially when things change and business hours can change as well. People are relying on Google to give them the message of what is going on around them. And when people are visiting, and there are a lot more people traveling throughout Australia from town to town and state to state, and that's the one way that people are going to find out. So it's really, really quite critical to check in with your profile, for instance, and as we were saying, it's there, it's free. You can have a look at your marketing presence, and that is your business card. So we want to make sure that anyone who visits you and comes to you is able to recommend you, is able to get work on that word of mouth and pass it on to a friend and say, hey, we stayed at such and such, or we've engaged this person to do X, Y, Z. And the credibility and the backing of that recommendation comes with you being found online and having reviews that other people have also left about your business. So we sort of owe it to that loyalty, to those loyal customers who are putting their reputation on the line and recommending you, to make sure that there's a lot more to be found from a customer perspective. And naturally, it just, we do it ourselves. If someone recommends someone, we look them up and we'll look at other recommendations, or before you buy something. We've got a lot of information at our hand, within reach. And why not use it? So, if we're using it ourselves, think about what people are doing in terms of finding your business and finding out about your business. We've also, another important thing is to look at the differences of how, what digital success and your marketing budget looks like, and where you spend money. And there are different channels. There are online and offline channels for your marketing. And you can spread it out. You can still be using the offline. It's still just as important. It will depend on your business and where you go with what you're going to entertain. I mean, email campaigning, it's still one of the strongest ways of sending out messages and engaging and communicating with your customers. And it doesn't mean that you don't do all the other things. The interesting thing is, though, a lot of people have the misconception that online marketing is more expensive. And I just threw up a few numbers there and dollar symbols, and it gives you an indication, if you've not already ventured in some of those channels that are out there, you've still got to create, if you do flyers and you're doing a letter drop and you're using your online marketing channel, you still have to create something. You still have to put the message on there. You have to get them printed, and then you have to get them delivered to you. And then you need someone to actually distribute them. Now, just that little bit of learning and that little bit of engaging and keeping your data and email addresses of customers, you could do that for a very, very small spend. You know, there are other advertising avenues like Facebook, which you can spend, but you can control the spend of it. So it doesn't mean whatever we're hearing the big companies do does not mean that there's the pressure for us, for small businesses, to necessarily put forward those budgets. You do it in line with what you are setting up, what is part of your strategy, what is affordable, and your campaigns are repetitive as well. There's just such a great, let's say there's measurability. If you go to the next slide as well, Sarah, it just captures the pillars of the benefits of your online versus your offline. So you've got your measurability. You can calculate the exact ROI and measure the effectiveness, what it says there. It means that you know instantly, if you've put out an ad campaign, you'll be able to see the pattern, you'll be able to see the behavior of your potential customers, and then you can see the actual conversion, and you can see whether it's worked and whether you would do it again. And you can target areas. You know, the span is just so much more extensive now, rather than relying on a few streets to do letter drops. You know, you've got a bigger span to get your message out, to get your services out. And of course, if it's e-commerce, if you have products online, then sure, you've got that as well, because you're able to deliver to people who never even knew that you had that product, or didn't know that they could purchase from you, if you're not necessarily online, if you go to that level. The great thing as well is something as simple as being recommended on Facebook, for instance, on a community page. If someone remembers or recalls that there was a request for a recommendation, you actually stay on there. So you've got long-term and continuous exposure, because people will go back and look at a thread that was mentioned. And if your business is tagged and your business is mentioned on there, then people can find you again and again and again. And as I mentioned before, the real-time results. So, you know, you can see exactly straight away, you know, the impressions that you have, engagement. And it all comes down to, as I said, the strategy and the branding and communication that you continuously have with customers, and the fact that they can just find you anywhere. So even if you dedicate, you know, you've got more of a necessity to be on a web, you know, have a website, you know, engaging in Instagram and Facebook and YouTube or LinkedIn, if it's appropriate. If you're able to be found in multiple places, it doesn't matter where that customer is. You know, you've got people on different platforms for different reasons. So I think that's another thing, to find where it's most appropriate for your business to sit. You don't have to go all in, but of course, be present and be able to be found, so that, and make sure that information's all up to date. That's one big key thing. The other thing that I think Phil was asking about, you know, where do you start? You know, your domain names and your accounting systems. There are so many on the market now. Again, it depends on if you engage a company. If you engage Larry, he will have experience in a particular domain host, or, you know, there are businesses who host as well. So yes, we can always come and give you a couple of choices, and then it comes down to price or even their location. There's just so much available now, which is a wonderful time to be in digital, to be transforming into digital. Although all those choices can be extremely overwhelming because there are just far too many. MYOB has, MYOB, they've stepped up and they're now on the cloud. But equally, you've got other competitive accounting systems that may do so much more. So if your experience is in one, and you can do a comparison of your wish, if you can have a wish list, now's a great opportunity to say, well, let me just see if there's something else out there that does what the one that I've been using before never did. So you're actually in a really good position to make another choice and do a comparison. I mean, MYOB, it's still quite a popular one as long as you've got the right one. And the important thing is that all these systems, what we're telling everyone is all the solutions that you're finding, you may need several solutions. The main thing is to integrate them, make sure everything is talking to each other. So you're not manually, moving from one, moving some information from one place to another. It's all there. You don't need a technical person to transfer information, because all these solutions now, they all talk to each other, they all integrate, but we are finding some businesses don't know that, and you don't know what you don't know. So, just exploring that area as well is quite important when you're first setting up your business. And later on, it's just as important, so that you're not spending a lot of time in the technical space, because there's a lot of automation, and apart from making you a good coffee, which it probably won't, it can just about, we can expect it to do everything else. It should do your accounts at the end of your quarter, your BAS and everything, as long as these systems are all integrated. But each business will need a different type of plug-in, if you like, the way that the systems speak to each other. Your point of sale will be important for one business, however, inventory will be more important for another business. So the program allows us to dive into your business, and there we go. Thanks, Sarah. You could probably take over on this one. Good segue for you.
We might use Graham's business as a bit of a case study, and just have a look at what those options are. Certainly, in the first instance, you need to have a website. You must have your own, your own domain, your own website, and that is your real estate that you control, and you can add things to and integrate things to. But it's definitely under your control. You can build a fabulous presence on Facebook or Instagram or other platforms. The issue, and you probably will need to, but that's not your platform, and they don't exist to help your business. They exist to help their business, and therefore any changes that they make in direction, decision, pricing, or anything like that, can have significant impacts on your own, on your access to markets, the way you speak to customers, that sort of thing. So no matter how active you are on other platforms, have your own web presence. And as Ant mentioned, and I'm sure Larry can attest, there are experts there who will help you, navigate the domains and make sure that you have that. It'd be interesting just to to have a look at some of these options and see how many you do have. Graham, again, using your business, you will have a need for infrastructure and data, because presumably you'll have a CRM of who your customers are, or who your prospects are, or who refers you and things. So you'll be building a database of information that needs to be able to be accessed easily, and to send out information or send out invoices or link to your marketing and communications activities. The social media strategy is something which a lot of people want to jump into social media, but until you've worked out who your customers are, how they like to be communicated with, what sort of information they like, and on what frequency of cycle, you can sort of burn a lot on the social media side before you really know sort of what it is that you want to do. So getting back to basics and having a clear marketing strategy is really important. It's not, it's not the end of the world if you don't do it that way, but it's just going to use up vital resources that you probably don't have. You haven't got time to do things that aren't going to give, a good return. So that's something to just keep in mind, even, right at the beginning. Just do the basics around your strategy and then execute on that. In terms of sort of visibility, every organisation is interesting. Everything that you do has an interest to someone. So, you might say, well, it's got to be just a small manufacturing facility, or it's, just B2B basic service or something. It's all interesting if you package it the right way. So, do keep that in mind. No business is sort of excluded from some of these things. Just, putting it out there to everyone, which of those do you already use? Wendy, you've mentioned that you're right there with the digital marketing and social media. How much marketing automation are you doing?
Essentially, we set up using an online booking system, so that provides quite a bit of the things that we need out of some of these categories. So that gives us inventory management. It hooks into our website and does our e-commerce for us. It's cloud-based.
Does it plug into, obviously, your accounting system as well, Wendy?
No, it doesn't. And I actually run a spreadsheet for accounting.
No, so, you don't have to do that.
I know I don't have to do that, but last year when COVID hit, it was the only thing we could afford to cut off. And my sister does my bookkeeping, and she's willing to work with a spreadsheet. So until such time as things settle down a bit, that's some hundreds of dollars that don't get put at risk.
And a great example is flexing. That's a great example of how you can flex down and flex back up.
Yeah, it was the only thing that we felt we could drop when everything went pear-shaped last year. So I have to admit, business analytics is pretty light on in the booking system. And while I have got Google Analytics set up, I've looked at it once. So that's it.
The thing,
and put your video back off.
So for you, there we go. So is that better?
Yep.
Oh, I don't know what's going on. So Wendy, for instance, for you, business analytics means that you could leverage off the data in terms of looking at a data cleanse, right? You could look at people that had booked with you same time last year, or if you're able to capture if you're able to do a survey following on from when they depart, when they check out, and you can ask them, were you here for a special occasion? So then that way it goes big dump for next year. It goes in the data space, and then you get a trigger, and you use that business analytics combined with an automation, and you can send those people a message saying, oh, this time last year you celebrated your anniversary, you're coming back to visit us again, and do you know what I mean? You get that retention. So business analytics with data can work for you in that respect. In other businesses, it'll be business analytics and inventory management, because it'll show that someone's low on what they've ordered. Do you see what I mean? So all this pattern.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the pattern of data, and you can plug it in, and what Sarah said was so spot on. The flexibility of being able to switch on and off these subscriptions. I mean, it's not ideal if you're in the situation of having to switch them off and go manual, but at least you know that you've got everything in order, and you can, flex in and out. But keep that data going, keep getting information, keep reviews, all that sort of stuff. It's something that we just didn't have before. So you'd literally be starting all over again after a time like what we've experienced in the last 18 months. if you don't have this information, if you don't have it set up and saved somewhere to be used, and you're not capturing it every day, you can't analyze yourself as a business, just the trends of how to accommodate and please your customers again, you know, when everything's good and ready to go on again. So it's it's such a great thing. So don't punish yourself or be hard on yourself if you're not necessarily using the Google Analytics, because sometimes, yes, that's very helpful, and it does take time to just sit there and digest it, but you're probably doing the analytics of your own business without you even realizing. So that
I certainly use what the booking system can produce in reports to track what
excellent
your accommodation analytics are about. For me, that's been the learning curve part of running a business that I've not been in before. So that's where I've tended to focus. But it's also, you're talking about, you can plug things in. The other thing that I've been very consciously doing is setting stuff up and seeing how it works before I put too many things in place.
Absolutely.
So I can actually get really familiar with something. So I manage all of the content on the website from the back end. It was put on WordPress, but it had a new type of system to actually manage WordPress.
Yep.
So that was a bit of a learning curve. So I gave myself time around that. And then it was like, how does the website work by itself? What do I need to boost it with? Did that next thing work? So we took on Booking.com, Expedia and Airbnb. I got rid of Airbnb after 12 months because it just wasn't doing enough, more maintenance than not. So that's one way to not get overwhelmed, because that's a lot of things in there to think about.
Yeah. And that's part of that strategy. You know, how much do you want to take on? How much new, what's going to make your life easy to free up time. And sometimes that's the thing. It's the priority of what's going to free up your time now, so that then you can space out your week and say, okay, well, 3 hours every week I'm going to dedicate to doing a little bit of research. And it should be guilt-free as well. This learning of digital should 100% be guilt-free, because, you know, people sort of think, oh, if I'm going to spend 3 or 4 hours, it's such a waste, or I'm just surfing and I'm looking at information, but that's what it's all about. You know, you've got to give yourself that time to see what people are doing on Facebook and see what people are doing on Instagram, and you can't be accused of spending time on social media, because it's part and parcel of your business too, about how to behave.
And Graham, that's going to be an important part of your business as well, in, you know, just getting online and seeing where, you know, where your market is, where your competitors are, what, you know, what sort of messages are out there, what, you know, what sort of content people are wanting to consume. It's a fabulous it's a fabulous resource. I just wondered if we could pop to Larry for a moment. And Larry, if you wouldn't mind sort of sharing some of the insights that you have around what, you know, what your clients, you know, typically need or miss or overlook, or, you know, how you just help them.
Yeah, I think digital advertising is just what's happening now. The basics are still very much the same as they have always been when you're communicating, whatever the communication is and whatever the platform is that you're using to communicate on, which is that you need to have a fairly strong idea of what it is you're offering and who it is you're offering it to, and why that person should choose you rather than someone else who's offering a similar service. It all comes down to that branding and to the understanding of the market and what is the best way to talk to that market. Digital advertising has given us a great way of fine-tuning that process of getting right down to the nitty-gritty into very small groups or very large groups. But the basic process has always been the same, where you have to start with knowing your market, having a clear idea of where you want to go, and having a clear idea of what it is you want to say. And then it's taking that, which I would consider to be a good brief to someone, to then have them translate it into something that is going to be effective in the way that it stands out, in the way that it makes you appear more prominent than any of your competitors and hits a chord within them. Too often we've seen briefs being turned into digital ads or turned into, this is exactly what the marketing says I should say, so I'm going to say it, rather than taking that next step, which is saying, okay, this is the brief, this is what we want to get back, how do I get that response? So rather than trying to put out the stimulus, we're trying to get that response back that we're very clear on. So I see digital advertising as really just the next logical step that's been happening, and it's only come about because of the way technology has advanced. But all the basic techniques of marketing, strategy, branding, and communicating are exactly the same as always. And the main thing that I've found is that some people, quite often we get the thing, I've got a friend of a friend who has done a couple of websites, so I'm happy with them doing that for me. Or I've used Facebook, so I know what to do with that, that's fine. Or even my friend has just bought a really expensive camera, so let's do the photography through them because that's going to be cheap. You've really got to start looking at using professionals. And one of the things the digital has done is broken things down into such small targeted areas. You really do need to get your head around that you cannot do everything. You cannot expect yourself to do everything. So when you need help, there's always someone out there who is a professional at it. Please consult them first. Most of the time, their first consult is going to cost you nothing. And at least it'll give you a direction in which you can go and then choose what you want to do from that point on. That's basically all I had to say about that. And
thanks,
that's
Larry.
my feeling.
And when you are, when you are thinking about the content for your website or your posts or, whatever it is that you're trying to communicate, your radio ad or whatever, it's not about you. The old websites that had a page and a half of about us and we're this and we're that and we've been here for 20 years and things like that is singularly uninteresting to anyone who actually is thinking of engaging with you. You really need to look at everything from the perspective of your client or your customer and what it is that they want to do. So when they come onto your website, having been referred by someone, they want an answer to their question quickly. Where can I find it? Do you do it? What's the next step? And they will just go off very quickly if they've got to plow through a whole lot of self-indulgent stuff about, you and la, la, la. That comes in about a sort of proof support about, whatever it is that they need validation on, that that you're secure or you're competent or those sorts of things. That needs to be there somewhere, but it's just not in the first sort of experience that they have, because it's really people have very short attention spans and they're getting shorter, so you want to engage quickly.
It's the buzzword, isn't it? People are time poor, businesses are time poor, everybody's time poor. So they want to cut to the chase and they work backwards. So people will look at what they want first, whether it's a contact number, whether it's your location, whether it's a pretty picture, if it's relevant, and then they'll read the information about you and the backstory about how you got to where you are. But yeah, they're doing it in reverse. And like Sarah said, and Larry, I think, is it still about 4 seconds? You got 4 seconds to engage?
About that time where you just, if the screen doesn't give you anything, you will move off that page very quickly and you'll go somewhere else. So it's important that you, as Sarah said, you talk to them in the way that they want to hear and what they want are looking for answers. But you also have to have that option so they can look at who you are and what you've done. And some people still want to read and still quite happy with a lot of copy as long as it's relevant. And as long as you give them the option that if they don't want to read it, they can skip over it very quickly. So the read more is always better with a sentence rather than 4 paragraphs on screen, which you have to scroll through. and also the way in which that text itself is presented. I mean, I've often seen some serif faces with tiny point size on reversed out of black or out of a dark color, and people will just take one look at it and they won't even bother reading the first two words. They'll be gone and they'll go somewhere else. So you've always got to look at user-friendly sites. You think of it in terms of how easy is it going to be the person who clicks on my link to come to my website? How easy is it going to be for them to find what they want and to react to what they want? So get that contact response going. That's basically how you have to work from what they want.
Absolutely. And so Deloitte did a study this was published in 2019, but they did a study of small business for 2013, 16 and 17. And the findings were very telling. The basic business, so just with a business email address and not an online presence, is still very common, and it's common in small business that has a very local customer base, no growth sort of ambitions, and maybe it's a business that's been set up as a job, and so there's not an asset that's being created for succession or to continue. And then you go through those stages to an advanced business that's using analytics, that's engaging. Video is something which, Larry, I think you'd probably agree, it's video, it's video, it's movement, it's those sorts of things that that people really look for. Not
Sure.
long video, but engaging and interesting content. And any business again can just, sometimes it's some of the things which they believe are the most mundane are actually quite interesting to others to watch. So don't discount your business as being video interesting, because just because of what you do. It could be quite engaging and a little point of difference for you.
Absolutely. If it is relevant, it all comes
Yes.
down to relevance. As long as it's relevant, it's great. And if you can find a way to make what you do on a day-to-day basis relevant to what your customers want, then that's great. Now, even if you're running an accommodation, it's nice to have a drone flying over so people get an idea of where that cottage or farm stay sits in the landscape and what they can expect to see. It's not just about the rooms, it's about what's outside of that place that they're staying. So that may be something that you can add very easily, in only 60 seconds or so, they get an idea of what they can expect.
And if you think about the difference, so if you are, for example, a sign writer, you can list on an ad. If you think about a press ad or something like that, you could list all the things you do, and that's very one-dimensional and it's a little bit boring, but it's comprehensive, and anyone looking at that will go, oh, that's cool, because I want some new skins for my company cars or something like that. Or you can just post on social media pictures of the last bits of work that you did and just build up a portfolio in people's timelines of, oh, well, they do that as well. That looks smart. And yeah, they do this. So, you are actually putting layers and layers of understanding into people's minds about the sort of work that you do, the sort of quality of work that you do, and you're doing it at very low cost. But what you're building is an engagement with those viewers and a sort of heightened referral likelihood, so that if someone in their ecosystem happens to say, oh yes, I better get that updated, or I'm going to need new signage for the new shop, then you can say, oh, well, there's a place in Lithgow that that I've seen that looks, you're not doing anything more than than making them aware of it. but you wouldn't know that at all if you know those little micro activities hadn't been happening on the media platform. So
yeah,
you know,
I think Sarah, a key thing is not to be afraid to share. You know, if something's going on, you know, and it is a change of your own personality to kind of go, oh my goodness, I'm putting something on a video and I'm going to record something or show or talk or what have you. But definitely people, you know, we shouldn't be afraid to share. And like you said earlier, it's interesting, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. It still is. So in all the different formats and all across all the different channels, there are opportunities to find your comfort zone of how are you going to showcase your products or your services or your location. And you know, there is no wrong, and it's sort of experimenting, obviously within you know, a bit of caution. You don't want to go too nuts and offend too many people, or you know,
just overload them.
Or overload them, that's right. Or make your business look a little bit different. Because so I think it's one of those things of stepping into the shoes of being a customer. And that's what I was saying earlier, to go online yourself and spend a bit of time as if you are your own customer. You'll find your competition and have a look at what they're doing, and you know, listen to people like local people like Larry, who engages with other businesses and has the, you know, you sort of hear the briefs and what's gone right and what's gone wrong, and you know, you can just, it's not a massive fail. You know, there is a way of going, okay, well, now I'm going to showcase my business this way. But having a plan and a strategy really pretty much makes it a little more foolproof, and you're experimenting in an area where you just get better and better. And I think that's the thing, this program introduces us to, you know, other businesses and other services, and it is just a way of building a bit of confidence with playing in this new space and how it can benefit your own business. So the advice will be different for each and every business, which is why we have a one-to-one, and Sarah pretty much dives into your business individually. There is no one, you know, one instruction for everybody, apart from the few things that we touched on today, which is the obvious of, you know, make sure people can find you and make sure that, you know, your number's there and you have a presence online. And then from there, you know, you have brainstorming sessions and a bit of planning.
Yeah. And I mean, this has a, this has a real implication for your, you know, business, never mind profitability, your business survival as well. You know, the absolute minimum is a mobile friendly website, a Google business registration that you've updated with accurate information and good pictures and things like that, and an email address with a business domain. So I think everyone on the call has that. Wendy, you have. Lee, I know you have. And Graham, when you set yours up, make sure that you have an email address that's, you know, whatever at your business name. Don't use Gmail or Hotmail or you know, Outlook.com or Big Pond. And if you've got friends who have businesses who are still using generic emails for their businesses, encourage them to change. You agree with that, Larry?
Totally. A number of times I've seen businesses who have great business and it's got hotmail.com, and I shudder every time I see Hotmail. I think something's going to happen to them very soon because it crashes, it has problems. People don't have any respect for you if you just have a Hotmail account or a Gmail account. You become one of the anonymous people, and you certainly don't come across as being professional. And that's the key word, is professional. If you're going to be professional, then treat it as if your business is really the best of the businesses that you're in competition with. And that means you've got to look that way and sound that way and give people trust in you. It's very hard to trust someone who's got a Hotmail account, I've got to say.
Yeah, absolutely. It all goes to credibility, and you want your credibility and your professionalism to be congruent at every touch point that they have with you. So, you know, for the cost of a business domain and the emails that go with it, the Hotmail one, it's costing you probably more than you ever know in lost business, because people just won't engage with you because of the perception.
The other thing too is a business card, a decent business card. That again, small stuff, but everything's got to work together for the brand. Every little thing you do, the social posts, the media, the business card that you leave behind, the flyer that you put out at the tourism office or whatever, all of those have to be speaking with the same voice, the same professionalism, and the same degree of branding.
Absolutely. And this is what the difference is, you know, in terms of the business impact between a very basic no digital and no website, and the, you know, the most advanced levels. You know, significant more revenue per employee, and frankly, the first ones are really dead businesses walking. They may be fabulous, but there are so many much more fabulous and connected competitors that you just won't be seen. You won't be seen at all. So take, you know, just think about those different levels, and you know where you are now, and you know where you're going to move. You're moving to. You don't have to jump into it all at once, but understand that for a business to grow and thrive, you know, you need to be on that pathway, and that needs to be part of your growth plan. That, you know, that you add these things in as and when they're relevant to your business, and then you utilize them as much as possible. I think probably, you know, back to your comment, Wendy, and Philip, what you said about sort of the which back office platform and things like that, when you do have one, use it, use all of it. Make sure that you're using every single fragment of it. Don't have a situation where something's coming in on one bit and you're transferring information, or you're doing some things manually. Use every skerrick of the you know, of what you're subscribing to help automate, you know, processes where that's you know, where that helps, to improve the output that you make, and to save your time for the things that only you can do and do really well, because this is not, you know, it's a big time investment to be engaged. It's necessary, but there's time in creating content, and there's time in, you know, doing all of that, making all of those decisions. So, you know, you want it to work for you as much as possible. So have we got some questions at this point? Philip, I know you were going you had a couple of things that you wanted to know.
That's okay. How's that? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Right. Okay. Actually, we haven't got an ABN or anything as yet. So, what should we be looking at first off? An ABN or a business registration?
Oh, go on.
Which comes first? Do you apply for the business name, or do you apply and then apply for the ABN?
I think it's worth looking at what business names you like the idea of, and sort of narrowing it down. You can look up, you know, business registrations so that you can see what's already taken, because you may find that a catchy name that you rather fancy for yourself is already registered, or something similar is already registered.
So where's the contact for that? Is it
the ASIC website's a good place to go for that. I can probably, if you're happy for Rachel to pass on your contact details, I can probably send a little bit of that through so that you can to step through it. But have a look at business names and you know, on the ASIC register and see, you know, whether what you have is already taken, or what you like is already taken.
Yeah. That would be step number one. See if it's taken.
Yeah.
Then number two, then get it registered. And
then, well, then when you register for an ABN, will you be doing it as a sole trader or a proprietary limited company?
As a sole trader.
Yeah, so you can just register as sole trader, which is in your name, but then you have, you know, you've got a business name. So the official thing will be, my sort of consultancy as a sole trader was, you know, Sarah Hunter trading as Aurora Transformations. So you just use the business name. So the first thing is, yeah, choose it, register your ABN, which will be in then your personal name, get the business name registered, decide whether you want to register for GST or not, which is, there's an optional element, but over 75,000, I think you need to be registered for GST.
As well as when you're thinking of a business name, you'll want to check whether if you're considering a domain name, you want to make sure that the two, and you might have to just change it a little bit to get a domain name that's the same as your business name before you start creating logos and brands and what have you.
Yeah, good point. So you want to get the same domain as business name. You don't want any ampersands or tricky punctuation or anything like that.
So with it styled as Graham blah blah blah, trading as bass fishing boats, that would mean that Graham just lodges the tax return in his name solely.
Yeah, but this is where you probably need some professional advice on the accounting and legal side, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's straightforward, but it depends what your end goal is, how you build it in the first place. But I mean, you get your for the commercial side of it, for the business side of it, just make sure that your business name is registerable because it's not already taken. You can also get that domain, and that it's simple for people to use, remember, and because that domain will also be, you know, your email address, not too long. Take it from me, don't make it too long. That was a really big mistake on my part.
All right, now another one that I had was with this business, the proposed business, it may entail importing goods from overseas to help with the manufacturing process. Now, do we need to comply with customs legislation before ordering goods from overseas?
Heading out of our wheelhouse pretty quickly here, Philip.
Sorry? What was that?
This is heading out of our wheelhouse on the digital side a little bit quickly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're heading away from that's okay.
Can we chat about this you know, separately? I'm really happy to just have something offline or a phone call or something and work through these with you.
All right, I'll return it to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing that I will say is that cyber is the most it's the largest industry in the world. Cyber sort of terrorism, fraud, attacks, everything like that. It's a very well established industry with hierarchies and KPIs and professionalism like you wouldn't believe. So this is something which is a threat to every size business. And if you think back about that, you know, those dimensions of business resilience that I mentioned right at the beginning, reputational resilience is important, and nothing will destroy a business reputation faster than you being the unwitting conduit for attacks on your clients through, you know, through just your own systems or lack of protection or whatever. So the Department of Industry has developed a cybersecurity assessment tool, which is you can see the screenshot up there. It's available to any business owner with an ABN, and you can work through that tool, and it helps you do a bit of a self-assessment of your risk appetite, your maturity of your systems, and it gives you an opportunity to sort of work out where you need to go next in terms of your cyber resilience. It's a very good idea to just review this every few months, certainly when you're doing your BAS or in some other cycle like that, so that you can again keep building your capability and your resistance to cyber attacks, or you know, just things that can either take you down and put you out of business for a few hours, or that can, you know, really have a lasting impact on your credibility and your standing. So this is something that is very important. The fact is that the best defense around cyber is actually the human defense, and people, you know, following protocols, using secure passwords, you know, maintaining just good cyber hygiene, frankly. But this is a really good resource that helps you step through that. Another thing that I'll just add is that while things were moving pretty quickly with COVID, things are now moving very, very quickly. So the move through sort of digital milestones, I suppose, in maturity is just going much, much faster now. Again, you might find that it's not necessary for your business, but if your competitors are going fast, then, you know, you'll kind of be going backwards as a consequence. So just, you know, keep your finger on the pulse of your industry and your market, and how that tends to play out, because you might find that you do need to progress a bit faster than you had expected, just because that's the way your entire industry is sitting now. Now, as Ant has mentioned, and you know, what we do is we work as part of the Entrepreneurs Program, which is a Department of Industry program covering various services from accelerating commercialization, which is for startups, to growth, which is for larger businesses going in a growth trajectory in various industries. The department created the Strengthening Business Program, which we work for, out of the growth program, and allocated it to businesses in bushfire affected local government areas. So Lithgow is one of those, and I work with businesses in Lithgow, also in Oberon and the Blue Mountains and Hawkesbury, and I work with them on anything that they really need. So we've got a comprehensive network of facilitators, each with their own network of advisors and specialists and expertise. And we basically sit down with you and you know, establish where you are now, where you want to take the business, and what are those steps that are going to be most effective in the near, mid and longer term. So the intention is to build, you know, strong local economies using, you know, the the small businesses, which are the backbones of those local economies and are in fact the backbone of the Australian economy, and just build them with you know, resilience and expertise and an opportunity to grow. You get a lot of information as well around, you know, market insights, benchmarking against comparable organisations, digital. So, for example, if I'm working with a client, I'll work through what we need from a business perspective, and I'll bring in Antonella to work more intensively with that business owner purely on their digital needs, and you know, really get those two sides integrating. So, you know, we might be doing a marketing strategy with me, and then you pull in the digital side of what that execution would look like with Antonella. And we can also give you some insight into the grants that are available at the moment and those other program opportunities that, you know, that might come up for your business or your industry. It's a great program. I'm very, very proud of it. And the people in the department that we work with are absolutely committed to making sure that every business in these areas gets like all the help that the department can put behind it, which is fantastic. So everyone's familiar with QR codes these days.
I've never seen one.
Hold your phone up. So you can contact me. Well, you can take down my number. You can contact me through Rachel. You can grab the QR code on your phone and I'll go straight into your contact list. And you can ask any more questions that you have.
I don't know if you noticed on the chat, Sarah, that Sheng Li did write a message saying that his microphone or audio wasn't working.
See that. It's okay. Lee and I are good friends. So
yeah, well, we've spoken as well. And I'm so sorry about my connectivity issues.
No worries.
Thumbs up.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was very worthwhile, I think, and hopefully everyone can be a bit stronger going forward.
Yes, well, this is just the start, isn't it, of everything. Once you have a little bit more awareness, then you realise what the next stage is, and you know what the next opportunities are. So that's all good. I'll just stop sharing this now. So just jumping back to you guys, Graham and Philip, have you got any more questions or any comments about digital?
I think the digital side of things for myself, I'm pretty up to date with all that. I have learned a few good things today. Business names, keeping them short, keeping them simple, and a few things that I do actually have to look at as well. But I do plan on doing a lot of my advertisements through YouTube and also coming back through website posts. Yeah,
well, just remember that YouTube needs to feed back into your website. I mean, everything's got to integrate. So make sure that you're taking them on a journey and not just taking them to the one place and then, you know, they don't do anything with it. Wendy, how is it for you? Not there. Cool. Rachel.
Sarah.
There you are. You're out of shot, so I'm just jumping into the dark. I think if we've
Sarah.
Yeah.
Sarah, just one thing you did say earlier on, if I wanted to give my email address to Rachel, but that you would be able to answer some of the questions. Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, well, and it's I'll do that, but it's I've got a lot of information now, and I do realise that the questions that I had maybe should have been directed more to a financial advisor or an accountant on the taxation side of it.
Definitely on the taxation side, yeah.
Yeah, but if I need to contact you, I've got your phone number there, and maybe Rachel may have an email address, whatever, and only in need only in need if I just got some questions over and above accounting.
I'm here to help. So, you know,
Yep.
if you want to just have a chat about some of the things that you're doing, I can tell you what I can help with and direct you to others who can help with the other bits.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your assistance. I thought that was great.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
well-
Well, I'll wrap it up and say thank you very much to everyone for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure and great that you could join us. Keep an eye out for future updates and events that we'll be running, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thanks for having us, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you all. See you later.
Bye-bye.